all walks of life and every corner of our state who stood up to file for elected office with the Democratic Party. It's just a few days after Election Day, and I want to acknowledge and thank every Arkansan who has worn our country's uniform to secure our free and fair elections nearly 250 years after our country's founding. Arkansans from nearly every branch of our armed services, officers and enlisted women and men, will represent the Democratic Party of Arkansas on the ballot next fall. We are grateful for their service. I want to credit the phenomenal educators from around Arkansas who are more united than ever in standing up for their students, parents, colleagues, and building a brighter future for public education in our state. I want to thank the supporters of public schools, like Rural Caucus Chair Steve and Kelly Graff, who have traveled the state to bring together stakeholders who stand up for strong schools and oppose the diversion of our public tax dollars into a slush fund for the wealthy and the elite. I want to thank our partners across the Democratic Party, like Arkansas Democratic Black Caucus Chair Deborah Mitchell, and Young Democrats of Arkansas President Allison Grigsby-Sweatman. Their partnership has made a broader, more representative slate of candidates possible in every corner of this state. I want to thank our county party leaders and regular citizens who served in volunteer roles across Arkansas, helping build toward a better Arkansas. Special thanks to Christine Irwin Jimenez, Gracie Ziegler, Mariella Yamashita, and Teresa Huff. Those are incredibly hardworking county party leaders who have made a huge difference for us in the closing days of this, signing up people that we didn't even know about early on. Special recognition must go to those who face adversity and stay in the arena. Dr. Chris Jones and the Vortex PAC have been invaluable partners in our effort to contest each of our 4 congressional seats. Working the phones with Chris over the past few days and weeks, his love for our state and commitment to the long haul of building toward a better Arkansas is undeniable. Thank you, my friend, for everything. I've got 2 champions here with me today. Vice Chair Janie Cotton and Strategic Director Will Watson have done the Lord's work to build a party that reflects our state and have begun the hard work of earning the trust and support of a majority of Arkansans. They have truly gone border to border, block by block. And I am grateful always for their commitment to this team and to Arkansas. Of course, I need to offer one final thank you. I need to thank Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders and her staff. To quote a farmer we spoke to in Searcy County earlier this month, Governor Sanders has done more to help the Democratic Party than anything we've seen in years. Put simply, the conduct and political arrogance of the supermajority party in this state have led to a stronger position for the Democratic Party, and the results are speaking for themselves. Democrats have recruited more candidates, 65, for the State House than at any point in the last decade. So thank you, Governor. This is a critical time in the history of Arkansas. This is a moment that calls for heroes. Heroes for public education that goes beyond adequate and becomes a gold standard for each Arkansas child, no matter their zip code. Heroes of opportunity for every Arkansan. Heroes for a fairer Arkansas. Heroes for health and safety over rancor and division. Heroes who believe that we can do better and that being ranked 48th or 49th in so many facets of daily life must end. We believe we have recruited those heroes. They are retired military officers and public school teachers and students and farmers and lawyers and moms and dads. They are all advocates for a better Arkansas. We are looking forward to introducing them to you in the coming weeks and months. Janie Cotton, you've got some statistics that I'd like for you to share with this group of people. If you will step up and do so, that would be helpful.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So excited to be here. As part of our recruiting effort this year, we traveled to more than 50 counties in Arkansas. We met with hundreds of stakeholders and had countless calls, meetings, Zooms, coffees, lunches, and vital input meetings to rebuild our party. These final weeks has been an all-hands-on-deck effort, and that included hundreds of phone calls from the entire state party apparatus. Democrats will challenge all 4 U.S. House races, the statewide special election for treasurer, and for the first time in a decade, more than 60% of the state house districts. A high water mark from 2014 that we have exceeded. We're really excited, and I hope you all can hear it in my voice. More than a dozen seats that were not contested last year will have Democrats running this time. Voters in several parts of Arkansas will have a Democrat on the ballot for the first time in many years. Our recruitment is by all metrics the most successful effort in a decade. It has yielded not only these highly informed candidates, but also hundreds of community activists ready to be involved in our effort to build a brighter Arkansas. We are excited to introduce you to these candidates, and we will take questions now. Thank you for being here.
So questions? Anybody?
This race we don't want to go. Given President Biden's unpopularity nationally,
Which changes about every other week.
well, but he's not doing well nationally. He's given how he's not very popular in Arkansas to begin with. How do you deal with that? How do you separate your candidates from the national politics, given how nationalized the politics here are already?
You got a thought?
Sure. Thanks for the question, Andrew. So traveling, I'm Will Watson, I'm the strategy director for the party. Traveling Arkansas, of course, people are very frustrated with what's going on in Washington, D.C. I've been in a number of counties where folks talk about that. They talk about why there's not Democrats running in their area because of the nationalization of politics, how people are paying attention to cable news, to social media, to like the most extreme ends of what we talk about. But accompanying that is people that are deeply concerned about what's going on with the public schools in Arkansas, people that are watching a state government that's attempting to cover up various expenditures and then change laws that affect the transparency of government expenditures. They're talking about tax cuts for the very wealthy while there are places in Arkansas where you can't get broadband service, you can't get a cell phone signal. I've traveled to parts of Arkansas where if you had an auto accident on the side of the road, there's no way you could get somebody on the phone because there's no signal there. But we're cutting taxes for people who are doing all right. That's what we're hearing around Arkansas. At the end of the day, you know, we had a conversation in Yell County, rural Yell County, where some folks came in and they wanted to talk to us about Joe Biden and a lot of the sort of talking points on national cable news. And our rural caucus chair, Steve Grapp, was standing there and he said, look, we share your frustration with Washington, D.C. I don't think there's anybody in this building that will say, hey, Washington, D.C. is doing a great job right now. But we can't fix Washington, D.C. from right here on Mount Nebo. What we can fix is who's on our school board, who's in the state house representing us, who's affecting our public schools. That's what we're talking about. And we think that, frankly, from the numbers that Vice Chair Cotton talked to you about, that's what we're seeing is breaking through.
Given that Arkansas is a red state, you know, how successful do you think these campaigns will actually be? It's one thing to get people to file, it's another thing to win these elections.
I'll speak to that. I'm a past candidate and lost by just a few hundred votes when it was predicted that I wouldn't get anywhere close and would get swiped off. To me, it's the vision, and it's not always the first race. Sometimes it takes the second race, but we got committed people who said, I believe in planting seeds. and they grow. So they may not win in 2024, but we see the future. And I disagree with a red state. I think we have a state that a lot of people don't vote because of mistrust. And so we can say red state, like I like red because I'm a Delta, but we're blue all the way. So I just want us to be conscientious of that. We need to get people out to vote, not based on a red state.
I think, I prefer the phrase right now red state. And so for anyone with a political memory beyond the last 10 years, a lot of our colleagues across the aisle are very familiar with a very blue state, right? You know, when I first got involved in politics when I was in college, 3 out of 4 U.S. House members were Democrats, both U.S. senators, every constitutional officer, and 3/4 of the state legislature were Democrats. There is a disjoint between what's happening in this building and what people are experiencing in the real world. You know, Joe Biden, to use Mr. DeMillo's, kind of framing, got 36, 35, whatever it was, % of the vote in Arkansas in 2020. 18% of this state legislature is Democrat. Democrats are underrepresented in this building. Just the average person out in the world, that 35 or 36% who voted for Joe Biden, they are deeply underrepresented in this supermajority, where only 18 or 19% of the people here are representing that Democratic platform. Frankly, the openings that we are seeing when we talk to people out, and again, it doesn't matter if it's Yale County, Baxter County, Chico County, or Miller County, the things that people are talking to us about, yes, they're deeply concerned about what's going on in Washington, D.C. They've certainly trended towards the Republican Party at the national level, but they look at what's happening in this building, and that is not their brand of conservative or their brand of Republican.
And I would add to that I think when we're taking all the money away from 95% of the school children in this state to give it to 5% of the school children, people are starting to notice. When we throw kids, lots of kids, off of their health insurance, people start to notice. When we've got folks who are supposed to be looking out for us that vote against broadband expansion in Arkansas, and then when they lose and Democrats win and we deliver lots and lots of money to Arkansas for broadband expansion, then we start messing around with who it's going to go to and where it's going to go and how it's going to go, which makes zero sense. So I think people are beginning to pay attention to some of the things that are going on in this building, and we're going to make sure they don't forget about it.
Can you walk us through the process of what were you looking for to prospective candidates?
Could you repeat that?
Can you walk us through the process of looking for prospective candidates? Like what traits were you looking for?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, we have a slate, per what both Grant and Janie said, that is incredibly reflective of Arkansas. That means folks that have advanced degrees. So we think we have a nuclear engineer that worked on submarines, all the way down to blue-collar folks who are literally just fed up with what is happening in this building. And so there is no template, and that's what we have to talk to candidates about. We have to say, there's no one person. Service doesn't look like anything. All you have to do is look at this supermajority and know that service doesn't look like any one thing. But we have folks who are just fed up. I mean, they're just parents at the school that are seeing what's happening as a result of LEARNs. They are retired teachers who are saying, we fought like hell for the Fair Dismissal Act, and they got rid of it overnight in a monster bill that had nothing to do with whether we were going to make the veteran teachers feel rewarded to keep those protections in for public school teachers. I mean, people that are just fired up. I will again echo what Grant said. We have folks who are running for office because of the conduct of the people in this building, specifically inspired to run because they see a state legislature that is out of touch with where Arkansas is. And so, I mean, I wish I could say that it's one thing, but I mean, we have a guy in here that came in with a cowboy hat that's an auctioneer. We have retired teachers. We have military officers. And we have just regular parents that are fed up with what's going on in the state. But thank you for that question. I mean,
And we
I think our
have
slate
mothers. I think my most exciting thing is we have mothers who are running, who have small children, who see the evidence of the issues with the schools. But I want to piggyback on the rural areas. We were traveling in the rural areas. There are people who don't have after-school programs for children. They talked about that. We have people who have an infrastructure where there are abandoned homes and people are homeless, and that's all in our rural areas. And then some of them couldn't even get connected to our information because of the bandwidth. So you got real people running who are saying, I'm fed up, I shouldn't just argue and complain about it, let me do my part. I think that's what you're gonna see reflected.
So when Grant mentioned how Sarah Huckabee Sanders helped recruit all these candidates for you, how confident are you that you can bank on this perception that she's not as popular as she thinks she is? Because when she ran in 2022, when she was on the top of the ticket, she helped deliver the biggest majority for Republicans since Reconstruction. So how much do you think has changed since 2022? I mean, it's only been a year. I know there's been stuff in the news, but do you really think, you know, the state doesn't like her anymore? You know, I've heard a few months.
We're standing by one.
My chairman has stepped in, obviously next to this $5 lectern, to highlight that this lectern, which is a $5 lectern, has certainly not caused any waves in any of the outlets that you work for. And so that's one obviously cheeky, sort of allusion to what's going on with our state government right now. But I can only relay the anecdotal, which I think the anecdotal starts to add up to the aggregate, which is when you call a farmer who is worried about his land in Searcy County, land that his family has farmed for 140 years. I'm calling an area that maybe a fifth of the voters there vote for Democrats. I'm not calling into friendly territory for Democrats. And he says, thank you for calling. Thank you for somebody in Little Rock caring about what is going on in Searcy County. We are afraid because of the behind closed doors, because of the backroom way that this governor's office is operating, the secrecy, the clouding things, the changing laws about freedom of information. They are concerned that their land is in danger. And so I can't relay much other than the anecdotal, which is it doesn't matter if you're in Searcy County or if you are literally in a coffee shop somewhere in South Arkansas and you overhear someone say the word lectern for the first time in a coffee shop in Southwest Arkansas, you know what they're talking about. And I can really only relay, like my family's experience, like private conversations there. And there are people who are deeply not Democrats who are talking about the issues that are going on in this building for the first time in a very long time. So how does that affect, sort of the aggregate voter, activity? Vice Chair Cotton alluded to, in response to another question, can we actually win? Well, there are more than a dozen districts in this state where Democrats got more than 40%, House districts in this state where Democrats got more than 40% in the last election. Maybe Joe Biden got 44, 45%. We look at these openings as an opportunity to say, look, if we won't seize that opportunity to go have conversations about government transparency, have conversations about public schools, have conversations about these issues that Arkansans are talking about related to transparency and so on, that's on us. So we are charged with going to these districts and having conversations with real Arkansans about what's happening in their communities. But we see a huge opportunity for breaking the supermajority and returning a little bit of balance to the state legislature.
So 2024 is a presidential year, so Donald Trump is still very much popular here. Joe Biden's not popular in Arkansas. So how much of an effect is that going to have on the down ballot races? And are you going to encourage people for split ticket voting, given that a lot of people are just going to come out and vote for Donald Trump? So are you going to try to, maybe you can't convince those people to vote for Joe Biden, are you going to try to convince them to vote for Democrats down ballot?
Actually, I think our take is maybe a little bit different than folks in the past. Democrats are working for a better Arkansas at every level. Look at what Joe Biden has done for this state in terms of investments in infrastructure. Look at what Joe Biden has done for this state in terms of being the best president for organized labor in a generation. This is a president who is looking at Arkansas and saying, I will make investments whether you voted for me or not. That's how we operate in the Democratic Party of Arkansas. We'd love to have your vote, but whether you vote for us or not, we are going to be working hard for you out of that building and in this building to deliver a better Arkansas. For us, that means healthier, fairer, safer, brighter. It doesn't matter how you vote. We'd love to have your vote, but we're going to work for you one way or the other. To the point about Joe Biden, of course, we're looking at districts where we think that there's alignment. We think that, okay, Joe Biden got 45, 46, 47% of the vote. Our last Democrat got 45, 46, 47% of the vote. Our challenge is to go talk to independent voters and voters in the middle and to mobilize our base. If I were a Republican sitting in this building right now and I had a college or university full of young people in my district looking at this election, looking at what just happened in the states of Kentucky and Virginia and elsewhere, looking at how close Democrats got in the state of Mississippi to electing a Democratic governor again,
Yes.
I'd be a little bit worried right now because we are coming for your seat.
What was Lensac? Was that far and away the predominant motivating factor for your candidates?
There's certainly more conversation about Lensac than anything. I mean, it raised a ton of awareness and engaged a ton of people, again, who were not overt Democrats, who were not partisan Democrats out there saying like, oh, I'm a party person. They said, I care about my public schools. I mean, gosh, y'all, some of us are connected on Twitter. Like, you ask somebody on Twitter or on Facebook, where'd you go to high school? What are you proud of in your hometown? They are proud of these public schools. They're proud to be an El Dorado Wildcat. They're proud to be, I'm a Bauxite miner, you know. They're proud of their hometown public school. And they're worried about what this law is going to do. They're worried about hundreds of millions of dollars over the next couple of years coming out of the public school system and going to that 5% that are in private schools. We want every Arkansan to have a choice about where their kids go to school. We just don't believe that the 95% of taxpayers who have their kids in public schools should be subsidizing that other 5%.
And Neil, this is a useful problem, and I enjoy living on it. But as we get out and talk to people, it's not the fact of the lectern. It's the fact of we appeared to misspend money. Then we tried to mislead people about it. Then we tried to change the law so we couldn't get caught misleading people. That's the problem. And that's something that Arkansans of all stripes are reacting to. And I think we're seeing the fact that this story will not go away. And it won't go away because there are a lot of people upset about it.
Are you confident that's going to translate into votes for Democrats? I mean, people may
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Does that mean they're going to vote for a Democrat now?
Well, I think they'll vote for somebody who says, I won't try and hide where I've spent the money, and then try and change the law to make sure nobody ever finds out where I spent it.
It's a good question, though, because in these really hard places, and by the way, we can take one more question. We got candidates we got to file, so we'll take one more after this. But, Neil, that's actually a very good question, because we've talked a lot in our party about opposition to a $19,000 lectern, opposition to changing the state's freedom of information law, opposition to just the arrogant conduct in this building that says we know better than you do, the people that sent us here to represent you. That doesn't equal I'm going to vote for a Democrat. It doesn't mean because you oppose those actions that you're suddenly going to become a Democrat. That's our work over the next year. We have to go out and make the case. We have to re-earn that trust. We have to do what I've called re-mainstreaming the Democratic Party. There's no horns under these curls, y'all. There are Democrats who are working class people in every corner of this state, and we have to go make that case that we are working for the people of Arkansas, and that's the difference. We got one more.
And to Janie's point, just add one more thing. That's the difference. That's absolutely the difference, is we have to go out there and ask for the vote. We have to recruit candidates who are honest, have a track record for honesty, have a track record for being able to deliver, and we think we've done that.
Final question, please. We do have to file them, but they'll be ready for, we gotta go once right out.
I'm an optimistic person, and I believe we will and have swayed votes because we've been out there before we asked for the vote. And I think that makes a difference.